In this lesson, we're still continuing going over area between our two functions, our two curves. However, what we're going to start looking at is what if there's multiple sections, like multiple points. So like here, for example, I already went ahead and we've got graphed f of x. So f of x, our top function, right? Because that's where it starts. It starts above. So that's why it's considered our f of x. However, notice compared to the other graph, it then goes below. So because of that switch, we are going to have to set up two separate integrals because then we're going to find the area between our two functions here and then add them together. So here, for example, we're focusing on, and notice the first section, right? We're going from -2 to 0. That's the first section, right? So we've got from -2 to 0, our f of x, which is 3x cubed minus x squared minus 10x. And we subtract from that, right, our g of x, which is -x squared plus 2x. But again, that's just the first section. Then we're going to add to that our other integral here, our other section, because notice how it switches. Excuse me. How g of x is now what's up top from 0 to 2. So from 0 to 2. G of x is now what's up top, -x squared plus 2x minus our f of x, which is 3x squared minus x squared, or 3x cubed, sorry about that, minus x squared minus 10x. So now let's simplify these two sections here. So notice I've got the two negatives, so we're distributing, so really this is plus x squared minus 2x. So here we're going to find -2 to 0 of 3x cubed. Now notice, -x squared plus x squared canceling out. -10x minus 2x, -12x. So that's the first one with respect to x. Plus, then the next section where it flipped. So from 0 to 2. Again, we're going to distribute. So this is -3x cubed plus x squared plus 10x, right? After distributing -1. We're going to find the integral of here now, -3x cubed. Now notice -x squared plus x squared cancels out. Plus 2x plus 10x, so 12x with respect to x. So now, just like before, we're going to find the integral, but now keep in mind of two separate sections here. So here, our integral is 3x to the fourth divided by 4 minus 6x squared from -2 to 0. Then we're going to add to that. Now we're going to focus on this next integral here from 0 to 2, which is -3/4 x to the fourth plus 6x squared from 0 to 2. So now notice, here we go. We're going to have to substitute, get our value here. I've got, when you substitute x in with 0, well, that's just 0 minus, then substitute -2, and you get -12. So notice here, right, we've got the two negatives, so really the area of this first section is 12. Then we're going to add to that, right, the other section. So again, substitute 2 in for x. Here, let me move this up. So when you substitute 2 in for x, you get -12. Then minus, when you substitute 0, Well, that's just 0. And so when you substitute 2, you get 12. Then minus, substitute 0. Well, that's just 0. So the area of this section is 12. Now we combine our two areas together, which gives us here an area of 24. So notice all the same, it's just we're having to be careful with, and notice what are those boundaries, because of when our f of x has then become not just the top, but then now below. So here, for this video, we'll start with C first, and then we're going to go to B. So let's do C. Again, notice, right, you don't know if this is our f of x or g of x. Does it start above or below the x-axis? So go ahead, if you need to, pause the video, graph, and let's see what you think, if this is your f of x or your g of x. So notice here, and I also went ahead and graphed like the x-axis, like I put y is equal to, if you want to see it, you put y is equal to 0. That's your x-axis. So notice how our graph starts above, then goes below. So our graph is starting, so here our f of x, our graph is f of x, but only above from -1 to 0. Then it goes below from 0 to 1. So here, because it's hard for me to, so I can show y'all. So that means here we're looking for from from -1 to 0. We're finding this area here. Notice that's our f of x, that is above. Then from 0 to 1, notice how we're going to find the area here, but notice the graph is below. So it's switched. All right, so here we go. From -1 to 0, right? This was our f of x. So this is 3x cubed minus 3x, because then it's just minus 0. So this one's nice because it's just the x-axis. Then we add to that, then from 0 to 1. Now remember, this was below, so we're switching it. So it's saying like 0 minus 3x cubed minus 3x. So notice here, we're going to end up switching our sign. So we're finding the integral from 0 to 1 of -3x cubed plus 3x with respect to x. So again, now pause the video, get your integrals here. And here we go. So you should have 3x to the 4th, or 3/4 x to the 4th, minus 3/2 x squared. Then from -1 to 0, we're going to add to that. Then here, -3/4 x to the 4th plus 3/2 x squared from 0 to 1. So now we need to figure out, right, what's our area of this section here. Substitute x with 0, well, you get 0 minus, now substitute -1 in for x, and you should get -3/4, which means the area for our first section is +3/4. Then we're going to find now the area of our next section here. So substitute 1 in for x. When you substitute 1, you get 3/4 minus, substitute 0. Well, notice it's just going to give you 0. So we are going to add 3/4 plus 3/4, which gives us 6/4, or simplify that to 3/2, 1.5. So again, notice identifying those boundaries where it switches, so that we're going to have to find the integral of the two sections added together. Now here, this next one. So we're going to do B now. I'll do B here in the video. Notice again, you've got the f of x, g of x. So we know this is going to start up top, but we don't know the boundaries. So go ahead, pause the video, graph these. Let's see what you think for our setup here. And so notice when you graph, so the black graph here, that's the x cubed function, and the red is the x squared function. So notice how, right, from -3 to 0, so from -3, sorry, there we go, -3 to 0, your f of x function, that x cubed function is up top. But then from 0 to 2, notice how it went below. So that's our two sections here. So from -3 to 0 and from 0 to 2. So here we go. There we go. So from -3 to 0, we've got x cubed plus 2x squared minus 3x minus g of x, which is x squared plus 3x. Then we're going to add to that. Then remember, right, the other section is from 0 to 2. So our x values. So from 0 to 2. So from 0 to 2, now it's switched. g of x was up top, x squared plus 3x minus x cubed plus 2x squared minus 3x. So practice now the simplifying so that you can see what are we finding the integral of. So from -3 to 0, and then we're going to add to that what is now our simplified integral from 0 to 2. So here you should have, we're going to look for x cubed plus x squared minus 6x with respect to x, because again, that's -x squared minus 3x. 2 minus 1, 1x. -3, -3, -6. So then here, after distributing your negative, you should have negative x cubed minus x squared plus 6x, again with respect to x. So again, now pause the video, get the integrals. And here we go. So here you should have x to the 4th over 4 plus x to the 3rd over 3 minus 3x squared from -3 to 0. Then remember, we're going to add to that negative x to the 4th over 4 minus x to the 3rd over 3 plus 3x squared from 0 to 2. Now again, practice the substitution. Substitute x with 0. Well, that's just 0 minus, substitute -3 in for x, and you should get -63 over 4. So the area is 63 over 4, because remember, right, two negatives here. Then we're going to add to that. So here we go. Pause the video, try this one. Let's see what is our area of this section from 0 to 2. You should get 16 thirds. So then here, add them together, you get 253 over 12. I'm just going to leave it as our fraction.